Ultimate, I think, betrayed most of our expectations. We were all sort of memeing it up, calling it a port or Smash 4.5, but I think the egg is on our collective face because it's hard to tell that Ultimate exceeded most of our wildest expectations just by eyeballing it. And this is evidenced especially by how much trouble many of us are having navigating Ultimate's neutral. Everything is blitzkrieg speed, and generally speaking, hitboxes have been globally nerfed, which most of us could tell the moment we played our first match and underwent an uncomfortable transition from managing our space and landing hitboxes at the tip of our big toe to a violent game of scrambling trades reminiscent of Rochambeau, where we kick each other in the gonads and see who first loses consciousness. Smash has always been a game of horizontal spacing. A player's quality lay almost squarely in their ability to optimally space. But things are different now in Ultimate. It's not that horizontal spacing is an obsolete skill, far from it, but that it alone will no longer suffice by itself. For all intents and purposes, landing lag no longer exists, and coupled with IRL hit and hurt boxes, we can rely neither on bulbous force fields around our limbs nor on the uncomfortable positions into which they pigeonhole our opponents. That being said, we have to seek out other avenues if we want to achieve mastery of neutral and ultimate, especially against characters who do still have what is now extremely precious disjoint. This being said, though horizontal spacing has always been the vastly dominant neutral strategy, it certainly is not the only strategy. I argue that there are three general categories of neutral strategies, two of which are critically underdeveloped, one of which makes intelligently selecting stages a more valuable skill now than it's ever been. The first is what I call the jab, in honor of Western boxing, and is synonymous with horizontal spacing. Just like the jab is the safest and most intuitive of the main strikes in boxing, so too is horizontal spacing the safest and most intuitive of maneuvers in neutral. The motivation behind horizontal spacing is to extend your hitbox into the space you anticipate your opponent will be, or currently is, while keeping your own hurtbox out of that space. If you look at this clip from the famous fight between Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson, you see Buster Douglas, the guy who will be in the white shorts, throwing his left hand out sort of around Tyson's headspace, but not actually aiming for his head, since that would require extending his IRL hurtbox at great risk. Likewise, take a look at this clip of Tyza versus me at Don't Park on the Grass last weekend. Notice how Tyza's not actually aiming for me, but extending his hitboxes as far as he possibly can into my space without compromising his own position. As mentioned though, without disjoint, this approach is significantly less tenable in Ultimate and is usually sort of a crapshoot in terms of trading, and I think this is where much of what we perceive as sloppiness comes from, since we're constantly trading with others. The second neutral strategy I call bridging, in honor of Chinese boxing, aka Wing Chun, aka the Ip Man thing. In that clip, the guy on the right made contact with the guy on the left with his forearm, and he used that bridge as leverage to enter because his attempted strike forced an option on the low line of attack. This concept is probably most familiar to zoners because a zoner's mission isn't just to turn you into Swiss cheese with their projectiles, but to stuff particular angles and cash in on the opponent's obligation to respond. Take a look at this clip where a young Link throws a bomb at me, forcing me to shield, then bridges the gap and throws a forward air at my face. Though this strategy is patent mostly to zoners, it's not exclusive to them. In general, anything that allows you to close the gap between you and the opponent without being at a flagrant frame disadvantage can be considered a bridge. In Smash 4, and still into Ultimate, a preferred tactic for me personally is to deliberately space attacks on shield and read my opponent's next move, like this example. I hit Big D's shield with a back air to establish a bridge and anticipated a jump out of shield, so I threw another back air. Though this, of course, is not quite as effective as throwing, say, a bomb at someone's shield such that there's really not much gambling on your end. The third, final, and I argue most important to develop to master Ultimate's neutral game, and most consequential overall, is what I call the overhand in honor, once again, of Western boxing. An overhand is a strike thrown, unsurprisingly, in an upward arc to bypass the defender's arms and attack their blind spot. Though the concept I present here isn't limited strictly to any one spatial orientation, be it over, under, starboard, or whatever, the common principle is to attack at an available angle. With the jab, you have to compete with your opponent's hitboxes, but if your opponent has arms so long that their knuckles drag on the ground, you're wasting your time trying to compete on the same plane as them. So what do? You go around them. Prior Smash games have brought us up in the tradition of launching attacks in neutral from a fairly stout angle, something like in this beautiful piece of work I made. But as the pain from our bruises is quick to remind us, this head-to-head approach is rarely clean, and unless you've got a good disjoint, it results in a trade. To solidify this idea, anyone who's played competent Inklings, Wolves, or several other characters may have noticed that they have a really annoying habit of jumping at you at roughly the following angle, especially between the platforms on Battlefield. The reason they do this is because an almost directly vertical entry is extremely difficult to contest on reaction, especially underneath platforms, but such Inkling aerial assaults, or as I like to call them, overhead cephalopod rapid aerial punishment, or oh crap for short, are great examples of how important intelligent use of angles is. I unfortunately don't have any Wolf or Inkling footage handy, so hopefully you'll all suffer yet more footage of my dumb old Genin for an example. I couldn't challenge Tysa's nairs and fairs horizontally, so I tried doing full hop nairs over his fairs and nairs. Now, the reason I think the overhand is such an important skill now in Ultimate is because beating out certain hitboxes or entering safely is no longer a question of technique and finesse, but a matter of the simple death and taxes fact that some hitboxes cleanly outclass others. Moreover, thanks to the nerfs to shield and instant jump velocity, a lot of small characters with good aerial mobility can now high profile a ton of hitboxes in close range and cramp your shield, such as Squirtle and Inkling. Because of the changes in Ultimate, I think neutral is deeper now than it's ever been, precisely because many characters are now obligated to seek other modes of entry beyond a contest of invisible bubbles around their feet, which is what made stout angles along the horizontal plane so dominant for so long in Smash. Hitboxes are now much more well defined along very particular planes, which makes them uncontestable, some of them anyway, or they were formerly a little bit more contestable, but now blind where they formerly would cover, such as Lucina's Nair being without peer laterally, but very vulnerable from pretty much anywhere slightly under her sword. It seems to me that a robust neutral in Ultimate will depend on all three of these strategies, and an understanding of when it's appropriate to either bully with superior range, stick to someone like Onion Breath, or sweep them from an advantageous angle. But at that, I don't think I have much more to say and think I have said all I set out to say. Sorry for the uncharacteristically long delay of about 3 weeks since my last video, but it's been a pretty wild 3 weeks, and only now do I feel I've competed and played the game enough to start making cogent commentary on it like I did with Smash 4. It's sort of funny that right as Ultimate came out, I ended up watching my own videos to guide my own learning process, so even if I'm full of shit and my ideas are completely meritless, I can at least say I'm practicing what I preach. But things have worked out reasonably well on my end so far in Ultimate, so I hope my ideas help you guys as much as I feel they've helped me. At that, thanks as always for your time, everyone. It's time you don't owe me to watch my videos, and I both understand that and appreciate those who pay my videos a few minutes of attention. In my next video, I'll likely be talking about why characters don't click with certain people, and how to maybe overcome this lack of clicking so that you can use the character you want to use, but you don't feel you entirely understand. As always, new subs do go a long way in justifying the existence of SmashConceptions, so if you did like this video, a great way to express that would be to hit that sub button and maybe share the video.